Hey, how's it going? Anthony Fro here, Create Sci-Fi. Today, I'm going to build a cube. So I have an idea for a new sci-fi short, and sort of at the core of it is this prop. It's always a prop with me. And I think a lot of people, you know, you start with the script. Ideally, if I could draw, I would do sketches, but I don't know. I build props, and that's, well, it is part procrastination. I'm not going to lie to you. But, you know, I'm happy to admit that because we get it done. But for me, the prop just helps to get me sort of in the mindset. It helps me to get inside it. I don't know. It sounds weird, but I like building the props. But anyway, we're going to build a cool cube, right? So, went to my local hardware store. I'm not sure. What I like about going to the hardware store is a lot of the plumbing stuff and greebly things. I had a rough idea, so I bought a bunch of things. I mean, you can find like little PVC connectors and drains and traps and all these kind of things. You know, I usually buy stuff for like $2. So I got a few things. I don't know what I'm going to use yet, but, you know, it's a cube, but I have some ideas. But really, this is going to unfold as we make it, right? So a cube prop for a yet to be determined sci-fi short. So let's just make an interesting cube. Let's go. All right, so as always, we dump out our loot. A lot of great stuff here. So I'm not sure what I'm going to use, but I know I'm going to use some of it. And, you know, like I said, it's all pretty inexpensive. So, you know, I just like having it on hand, and I will use it at some point. So the first thing is got to build the cube, right? So just some styrene plastic. I think this is 3x3. And, you know, I could probably find a plastic cube, but I just like the idea of making it, right? It's a good exercise in getting better at using the plastic, and I don't know, it's just more satisfying. So now while it's apart, I'm just putting in the aluminum tape on the inside because I am going to put an LED light in there. So I just want to give it a reflective surface. Now this is that plastic melting glue they use for models. It works good with the plastic. So I have my 1, 2, 3 blocks there, and what I'm doing now is I'm just building a cube, right? Not very exciting, but this is part of the process, right? So probably the thing that's difficult here is, you know, you want it to be square or as close to square as you can get, right? So those cubes really help me. And, you know, there we go. So now we almost have a cube. And then now I realized, oh, it's 6 sides. So, you know, because, you know, we're always trying to get things as close as possible, right? Trying to be perfect, striving for perfection. I think here that if I put the cube on an uncut sheet, that it's going to give me a closer fit, a tighter fit, less tolerances, I believe is the word, right? So, you know, building a cube. So you always want to make sure you have a sharp knife. I always keep a sharpening stone on hand. And, you know, now I'm scoring this to the body that we already made. So I'm getting a more tight fit. Like I said, repeating myself. But, you know, basically I'm just vamping while we're building a cube, right? But it's going to get fun. So now I'm just going through, and I got my sanding sticks, my emery boards, and just trying to square it up. So now I go into my light boxes. I'm not a big electronics guy yet. At some point I'll dive into it. But now what I tend to do is little inexpensive, like dollar store self-contained LED lights, and then I repurpose them. You know, you have to cut them apart and use them. And, you know, I just do like simple light effects. So that works for me, and I think that can work for you. So now I have my Dremel buzzsaw, and I just had to cut this out of, I think this was like a Christmas light, but what I really like about this one is it fades between colors, so that's nice. So now we have the stencils left over from the Aztecing, and I have an idea here. So because I saved them because they were so hard to find, this is the negative area, what I didn't use for my paint treatment on the model kits. So I put the aluminum tape over the stencil and I get this really cool pattern. So this is the aha moment. I didn't pre-plan this, but now it all comes together. And then now all those hardware parts, it becomes very clear to me this is the one that I'm going to use. So I bought like 10 parts, but again, they're all like $1.50, $2. So this is the one I'm going to use, and the other ones I'll have on hand for other things where I need greeblies. So now I'm off to the races, right? So no more vamping, no more cube building, or prop building. So again, sharp knife, I'm going to cut out a hole to receive this drain. Now this is like the tiniest little drain basket that I could find. It's probably for a bathroom sink or something, but what I liked about it is it has this little ball at the top of it. So getting the circle out, you know, you got to persuade it a little, cut pieces, sort of sneak up on it. But, you know, once you get it to pop, then boom. That's why I love working with the styrene plastic. It's just such a great material. So now I'm sneaking up on the size of this hole because I want it to be a really tight fit with this drain basket. So, you know, again, the Dremel tool, just massaging it a little, try a little, you know, you just want to get that right fit, and boom, there, I have it. Now I'm really liking that, right? So just going to line it all up. And, you know, the reason that this is not just step, 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 step is you're thinking about it as you go along. Like I knew I wanted to make a cube, but, you know, now it's sort of unfolding before you and me, right? So now I'm testing everything out that I thought would work, and whew, wipe the sweat off my brow, it works. Okay, so now I just need to make a little hole in the bottom where the switch from the light will be able to be activated. And, you know, again, because we're repurposing things, the switch is going to be a little recessed, which is fine. You know, you just got to work with it. You know, this is a hand prop, so on the day when I'm using it, you know, I'm just going to have like a little screwdriver or a little pin on hand to be able to turn it on and off. But I think ultimately that'll be good because we want that hidden anyway. So now I'm just securing the light at the bottom with hot glue. I like to use hot glue for this kind of stuff because it just sort of puts it there permanently, right? Now it lives in there. I don't ever have to worry about that. And then I was talking about that switch. So now I just have like a little jeweler screwdriver and boop, pop it on and off. And I think ultimately that'll be fine because then nobody's going to turn it off by mistake if you're using it when filming. Nothing worse than filming and having to restart because the prop fails. So now, because it's a cube, you know, I'm spending time every time when I'm between steps. I always sand the corners and just trying to get it smoother. Testing, retesting. Everything feels good looking at it. And that was just basically a little procrastination because now I'm going to seal it up, right? This is like a final step. So now I'm sealing the top on this. And if this wasn't going to be like a one-use prop, if this is something I was going to use often, I probably would have used magnets instead so that I can access in there and change the battery if need be. But for my purposes for this, I think this will be fine, right? Knock on wood. I might regret saying that. So now, because we're getting into the finish process, just going to clean this up with some isopropyl alcohol. Right? And so now we're going to put on these stencils. And I'm going to pause here because everybody always asks me about these. Everything else I link to Amazon, but for some reason, these are very difficult to find. So here's the information I have. This is what they're technically called if you want to Google it, right? But you can go to their website and here's the URL where you can order it, but that's from Japan. I've never had luck with that. So I would Google it and try to get it from eBay or something. But anyway, that's the information. So moving on. So now, because it is the negative space, this is a little tricky. This is, you know, one of these things where I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this stencil on now. And I was like, no, not that easy. Had to wrestle with it a little, but creeping up on it, right? That's what you always got to do when things are giving you a hard time. You just creep up on it. So I was going for these big chunks at a time, and then I realized, no, I'm going to have to do little sections. But basically what I'm doing is I'm putting on this negative stencil, which is great because this was the waste. So now I'm, upcycling this. And this is what's going to give the aluminum tape that we put on here the definition. It's going to give it some life, and it's going to change it from just being a cube. And frankly, without this step, this is probably not even a how-to video. This is not even interesting. It's making a cube, but now this is what makes it prop making. This is what makes it fun. This is what makes it cool, right? Like, this is fun for me. I'm like, aha, never done this before. I think we're onto something. And still, you don't know if it's going to work, but you're pretty sure. All right, so now I'm just going through and just looking for voids, little spots that didn't work out. And I'm just taking a sponge and I'm making sure that it's all pressed on there really good. There are some raised spots or overlaps. They're a little funky, but, always on this channel, we're going to do a weathering pass, so that's fine. We're never making anything pristine in this shop. It's always rustic. All right, so now the aluminum tape, and I'm just taking care. I don't want wrinkles in this. This I want to lay down flat. So I'm just sort of taking my time, and I don't want to overlap, right? So when I get to the edge, I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut that so I get a nice clean fit. I'm overlapping a little here, but I'm really trying to be careful. I really just want one layer of that tape so we can really highlight that Aztec design. And, if you can't get those stencils, you can just go ahead and cut squares out of masking tape and just put squares all over the whole side of the cube, and you'll get the same effect, right? But this is just a little more efficient. In my old age, I'm always looking for efficiency. All right, so now I'm just really working the aluminum tape into the recesses of that stencil, right? So now I'm just gonna cut out the hole because we want to see that light. We want to drop in that sink that's no longer a sink basket. It's now some sort of component. I think it's a transmitter. So just sneaking up on that. Don't want it to pop into the bottom, so I have to fish it out. And now I'm just going over this with a Scotch-Brite. Scotch-Brite just really helps to, again, pop out that detail and give it like a cooler look. So now I'm taking the steel wool. And the steel wool is what buffs it and gives it a really believable metallic sheen, right? So working it with the steel wool, always looking at it, thinking, all right, yeah, okay. And now the pause is really because I'm going to start putting paint on it, and you want to take a breath and make sure, like, okay, you crossed all your T's and dotted your I's. Here, I'm just putting a little rub and buff on that black button on the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray paint the whole thing black, right? So hitting this with a hairdryer, and you'll see why, right? This looks a little unnerving at first. It was a little unnerving to do. It's like, what? But this is really going to pay off. So now we're going to take the steel wool. Well, I start with the Scotch-Brite, and again, sneaking up on it. And I realize this is not really, it's working, but not great. But then I get the steel wool, and aha, then it's, whoo. Sigh of relief, a little smile there, and it's like, yes, love it when a plan comes together. This is one of those great instances where it was like, this is kind of what I imagined would happen, and it's happening. I've seen people do this before with the paint and then sort of scraping it off, rubbing it off with the steel wool, but I had never done it, and it works. So now I just want to seal this with a clear because I'm going to do some weathering. I'm just putting a couple little bit of super glue on this when I drop it in. If I need to access that will just pop right out. Little permanent, but like I said, this is a prop. Testing it all out, right? Oftentimes, knock on wood, you get to this point and all of a sudden, why is the light not working? But it's all working. So now I'm going to weather it. I just have my water-based oil paints. I have a burnt sienna and a dark, like raw umber. And this I'm just doing gingerly, right? Just little dabs, wipe it off. You don't want to get this everywhere, because then it's just going to look like it's rusted. We don't want that, but we just want to break it up a little bit. Now I'm just taking a little scrap piece of sponge. I'm going to just do little dabs. This gives you like little, almost like chips, little dabberinos. And yeah, you see, like, there's just that little bit of brown in the reflection, and I think that really sells it. So now we're going to seal it in, walk away, and here's the beauty shots. Yeah. Like I said, it's really about that stenciling. And if you can't get your hands on those stencils, you could just cut squares out of masking tape and make like a digital camo pattern with that. But this is what makes it a prop. This is what makes it fun, right? Otherwise, it's just a cube, and we're not making a video about how to make a cube. So yeah, very happy with that. Yeah, very pleased with that, right? And, you know, again, this treatment is what makes it a prop build, right? Otherwise, it's just a cube. And again, I'm sure you can find, like at Staples or something, a cube, but I don't know, it's just more satisfying to make it, and it's great practice for using the styrene plastic, right? Oh, very happy with that, right? So now, all I got to do now is just write the script. I got videos on that. I'll rewatch my own videos. All right, well, to get the full effect of this, I think the only thing left to do now is to fire it up, right? All right, let's put it over here. Oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Whoa, look, Mom, no hands, no body. Yeah, cool, right? And it's a very easy way to add some, you know, high value to your low budget production, right? Low cost, high impact. I do have some videos that show you how to do a hologram like this, a couple different ways. So you can see, you know, we made a simple cube, right? With just some paint treatments and weathering. It's a really viable prop. Well, as always, I hope you found this video useful. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Love to read the comments. And be sure to check out the merch shop. Buying a t-shirt, buying a hat really helps the channel. Well, as always, I'm just here to help make sci-fi. How do you get out of this thing?